Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's New and Coming Up with Lipedema. I am Gail Straker. I'm the community manager for Lipedema Simplified, and I'm here today with my friends and colleagues. First, that direction on my screen is Siobhan Huggins. Hi, Siobhan.
Hello.
And Siobhan is a research specialist for Lipedema Project. And also, we are here today with our very own Leslyn Keith. Say hi, Leslyn. Leslyn's out on the boat and she's frozen at this time. So, as soon as she comes back in, you'll see her wave to you. She is our director of research. And
Okay.
Yes. Just wave, Leslyn. Just wave.
There she goes. Anyway, we're here as we come together as usual on our Friday afternoons to say hello to you and to share some of the stuff that we're going to have coming up. So Kathy Patton's here from New Jersey, Union, New Jersey. Hi, Kathy. It's good to see you. Which reminds me, if you're here in our audience, please make sure that you post your name and where you're from. And if we get a chance to say hi, we will. Or if you have a question and we get a chance to answer your questions, we will do this. And also, if you ever want to give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs up or give us a heart, whichever you have, because we like to see those. We like to see those coming in across our screen. So, what's been going on in the month of June? Lipedema Awareness Month. And we have been having a lot of activities. We have been having this wonderful event that we call the Lipedema Awareness Month Challenge, where we have had several meetings. We've set challenges for ourselves, and we have a couple more coming. We have a couple more events coming up this next week with Lipedema Awareness Month Challenge, and our guests are going to be Siobhan and Leslyn. Would you guys like to tell our audience about what you are going to be presenting?
Yeah.
Well, we
So
just had a. I'll go a little bit while I'm on, Siobhan, and then when I cut out, take over. But we just had a wonderful presentation, Siobhan and I, with a support group that's at UPenn in Philadelphia. They have a lymphedema and lipedema support group. And so we did a great presentation there. Well, they all loved it. And so we are going to do it again as a repeat for the community. Siobhan, go ahead and tell everybody about it.
Yeah. So part of it is an introduction to lipedema, just so we can make sure everybody's on the same page, that they have that starting information. And then we'll be going into some research updates. And this is super important, especially over the past few years, because there is so much research on lipedema coming out. So it's not all of the research that's been published over the past few years, but just a couple of highlights that help with our understanding of lipedema in terms of the pain, in terms of the swelling, in terms of nutritional approaches. So I would highly recommend everybody come, because even though we're talking about research and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, we'll be presenting it in a way that's really easy to understand and that's really, really relevant for anybody who has lipedema. Because the better that we can understand how it works and what's happening, the better that we can manage it. So please come.
And that presentation is going to be Wednesday, June 28th.
Yes, June 28th.
June 28th, and I have dropped the link into the comments. So, and I believe I've also put it in the invite to this meet this broadcast. So please make sure that you check it out. And if you haven't registered yet, register. And if you have registered, because we've had 1,000 people register for Lipedema Awareness Month Challenge. And so if you have registered, make sure that you come to our event on Wednesday.
Yeah, and if you haven't attended any of the previous ones, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and join this one. We make sure that every meeting people can kind of watch and feel like they can watch that one in isolation. preferably all of them, because they kind of come together in this cohesive type of thing. But you're also free to come to whichever ones that you're able to.
Right. That's the thing about, we have a few more days left. We have one more week left of June. So we can't be done, right? I mean, it's still Lipedema Awareness Month, so we can't be done. And we've been putting on what we've been calling Tribers at the table throughout this month of June. I held mine last Saturday. It was wonderful. I thought there were going to be 3 of us. We got together and sat around a table um, and had a chat about lipedema. I thought there were going to be 3 of us, but there were 6 of us. So I ended up with 4 guests coming. Siobhan's holding hers in Denver, Colorado tomorrow.
Yeah, I
And
can't believe it's tomorrow already. I feel like I've been preparing for it in my head this whole time. Like, what stuff do I want to bring? Like, what topics do I want to discuss? And yeah, so I'm excited to join with other people. I believe Jeannie Lewis said she's going to make it, so that's exciting to be able to meet someone I've seen online and not face to face yet.
well, and if you still haven't attended one of our Tribers at the table, Siobhan's not the only one who's going to be holding them. There's going to be 5
5 or
others.
6 of them?
Right. We have one in New Zealand with Fiona. We have one in Ontario, Canada with Kathy. We have one in Texas with Terry. We have one in Perth, Australia with Carrie Reedy. We have Siobhan's. I think there's one more. Oklahoma City. Maybe not. Anyway, check out the link that I put in there where it says Tribers at the Table, and you can look and see what still is going on this weekend. So double check, and if you're close to one of those, please register and give it a shot. Oh, Nashville. Thank you, Paige. And there's one in Nashville. I knew it right with 80. See, these our audience members, they keep us honest here. So
Yeah, that's the power of community, Gail. If you forget something, someone will remind you.
it
And
sure is.
Julie Rosa here said, Happy Lipedema Awareness Month. It is wearing me out. One more Wednesday left in me, luckily. Thank you all for the work all month. From Camarillo, California. Yeah, like that's part of the thing is with Lipedema Awareness Month, there's so much to take in and digest. And luckily, we have a whole year before the next one. Though we do have some other things coming up later this year. But that has been the focus this month is small steps that we can take. So even though there's a lot of information, you can just take one little nugget out of there and be like, this is what I'm going to work on this month.
That's for sure. And speaking of things that are coming up, we've opened up the tribe again. And so if you get a chance, if you're not a tribe member, here is the link to that. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in our comments as well. But here, let me grab that. This is awesome. We have people popping in and popping out. Leslyn is on her boat, and so what happens is Leslyn's internet is iffy, and she comes and goes right now, and I have to keep going down below and letting her in, as I just did every time she leaves. So if you see Leslyn pop in or pop out, not pop in, remind me, Gail, let Leslyn
Let her in.
Let her in. It gets a little crazy. So anyway, the tribe is our membership community, and so if you've been wondering when you could get into tribe is open now. So make sure that you get a chance to register for that. Siobhan, what are you and Leslyn going to be doing in July?
We have been invited to come and give a talk and hangout session at the Utah Quarterly Keto Meetup group. And that is hosted by Chris and Miriam of the Keto Chow Company. They do a bunch of other things, but so that is very exciting. And we'll actually be talking about lipedema while there. So it'll be very patient focused, so easy to understand information, how this could apply to someone with lipedema. Something that, if someone is suspecting lipedema in themselves, or even if they're not, they may watch this presentation and go, oh, this is starting to feel familiar. So lots of good information is going to be there. And then, of course, there's always just the opportunity to hang out. It is a keto meetup group, but because we're involving lipedema in this, feel free to join if you are in the area, even if you're not keto. Come hang out, chat with us, just get to see each other face to face. Yeah, so lipedema.
So you and Leslyn are going to be there together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're actually going to be there in person together. I'm going to be flying in Thursday and then flying out Monday. And yeah, it'll be nice to be in Utah because it's like, I love Boulder, but Utah has a different view of the mountains, so it's nice.
Looking at the mountains from the opposite side. That's kind of
yeah.
what I think about Utah. Leslyn, are you back with us?
I think I am. How am I doing?
You're good. You're moving.
Okay. And Siobhan has asked me to bring my hiking boots with me because she wants to go on a hike. So we'll give that a try.
Are you going to do Mount Timpanogos?
I don't know yet. It's to be determined. The only thing I've let Miriam know is Leslyn said she was up to some light hiking. I may go on a more intensive hike on Sunday. Yeah, gentle hike is how I described it. And then I also asked Miriam if she has home gym equipment that I could borrow. That's about as far as I've gotten.
Okay, so we have a comment here. I just want to pop it up real quick. I believe these are kudos for us. I just learned about lipedema while researching my leg shape and why I wasn't losing weight there. And so many light bulbs have gone off. You guys have been a wealth of information for my PCP, which is wonderful that you're educating your PCP. And we actually have a link. We have a document. Is that right? Talk to me about the clinician page because I have it in the private chat here. It's called the clinician link is what I called it. It's a website that you can share with your PCP, and they can get more information. And I'm going to put that right there.
Yeah, so that includes the quiz in terms of asking people, kind of seeing if maybe there's worthy follow-up on this. They're showing some symptoms of lipedema, which can be useful for providers as well because it can act as a little bit of a screening tool. It's always important to note that not everybody is going to have all of the symptoms, but if you're aware of them, then you can start investigating and look for some of the more I want to say diagnostic, but distinctive symptoms of lipedema. And there's also some links to some standard of care documents so they can get a general overview of what therapies are recommended, where they can kind of start out. So a lot of that is really good, useful information for doctors to have. And it's always awesome when there is a care provider who's interested in learning. That's related to one of the studies I was actually talking about is they were looking at the experience of people with lipedema in Norway. And one of the interesting points on there was that knowledgeable doctors were very valued, but also doctors who expressed earnest interest in lipedema were also highly, highly, highly appreciated and valued. So the doctor does not have to be an expert. But just if they're interested in learning, then the patient is like, awesome, because you can learn together. Like it just helps to have someone on your team.
Right. And we didn't all know about lipedema, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew nothing about it when people were like, oh, you might have this. Right. So I wouldn't expect a doctor to know about it. And my doctor didn't either. But we learned about it together, and that's been helpful.
Yeah, and one of the things that you've said that at your presentation in Low Carb Denver, it's like, now that you know about this, you can't unknow it, right? So once we know about this, we need to be part of the solution as well. And even my primary care physician knew nothing about lipedema until I brought her the information. Once I brought her the information, she's been since then studying. And my last visit I had with her in May, she actually said to me, Gail, you and I know what lipedema is, and now we need to make sure that we tell everybody what we now know.
Absolutely.
Which I was really thrilled with her. She goes, because we understand what's going on now. Now we can make sure that people get the care they need. So always feel free to educate your clinician. Ask them lots of questions. And as you can see, I put the link in. It's just called the clinician. It looks like this, the clinician's link. But this is in the chat, the comments, so that you can click on that. And it's a document called Clinicians to Clinicians.
Yeah, and if your doctor reads through that and then they're like, okay, this is great, I want more information, feel free to connect them with us. We have a ton of resources, a ton of ebooks, a ton of information from the community, and we're happy to share that with anyone who's interested. I have already sent some emails to clinicians saying, here's some beginner information on lipedema and how to help your patients manage it. Because in all likelihood, they probably do have some patients with lipedema, whether they know it or not. So it's just good information to have.
Right. I mean, if you think that 11% of females have lipedema or struggle with lipedema, you can just imagine they have to have patients with lipedema.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what we heard at Low Carb Denver when Leslyn and I did our presentation. That was a lot of doctors in the audience, and there were several who came up afterwards and was like, oh, I have some patients that I need to talk to. It's like, yeah, you probably do.
Right, right. And that's where, when you said, now you can be part of the solution once you know about it. I'm sure in that presentation you did, there are a lot of light bulbs going off, going, that's why they're having they have this, they have that, and I didn't know it. So with all of that, we have to make sure that we drive forward with our messaging. We need to make sure that people do understand where to find information and what some of the next things we have coming up. One more thing that I want to share is that we have our heart to heart coming up. It's never too soon to save the date. We have, as soon as I find it, how we get weddings and graduations and all these save the dates, right? Well, we have another 3-day heart to heart event coming up in October. So make sure that you save the date. Make sure that you take the chance to come to these 3-day events. In these 3-day events, they're not the old fashioned, listen to me, the old fashioned webinar, like webinars are old fashioned, but in a sense they are, right? They're not a symposium like you go and you listen and you just, glean whatever information that you can glean by listening for the 3 days. These events are interactive. And I know that I usually keep Siobhan out of the breakout rooms, but Siobhan usually says, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go.
I do want to go because they're so useful. And one of those breakout rooms was what actually encouraged me to go and finally take that step to go and look for a lymphatic therapist in my area. And I ended up finding one. I ended up finding one that I liked and who was nearby, who was very scientifically minded. And we've been working together since October and it's made a massive change, but I would have taken so much longer to get to there without the encouragement of other people in the community in one of those breakout rooms. So they can be life-changing for some people. Like, I would consider that life-changing for me, in terms of the impact that it's had on my health and my perspective on what's possible and the types of things that I can do in my knowledge of my body at this point. Like, it's been awesome. So I do like to participate if I can, but I do understand it can be scary and intimidating.
Well, I end up listing you as a co-host, and I take all the co-hosts out. But because you like to get in there and play with the people.
I was also thinking we could just have like a staff version of it, like just answer the same question amongst ourselves, because that would also be fun. I'm just like I was one of those one of those people who would fill out the like Facebook quizzes, and I would never actually post them. I just wanted to fill them out because it's fun.
Oh yeah, I agree. I enjoy those things too. So Julie Roses says, "Hey Gail, wait a minute. Don't we have something coming up on Friday as well? Friday the 30th. I know she put the 40th in there, but I know there she goes. Friday the 30th. And yes, we do have something coming up on Friday the 30th. We have a pain clinic, and this pain clinic is a bonus session, and it is for it is with me and Brian Hayward. Brian Hayward is a CBD consultant, and we are going to talk about using CBD to help with pain regulation, swelling, and some other situations like sleep, um, itching, skin irritations, and those sorts of things. And so we're going to talk about CBD and how it can maybe make a big difference in pain. That's going to be on Friday the 30th. Now, the way you get there is you have to go and you have to register for the Lipedema Awareness Challenge, which I put the link again in the comments. You sign up for the Lipedema Awareness Challenge, and you will get a message that tells you that the pain clinic is on Friday the 30th. So we have Wednesday, the 28th at 5 Eastern, and we have Friday the 30th at 5 Eastern. We have 2 more things coming up. So thank you for the reminder, Julie.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up something that I've seen more and more frequently in the Facebook groups, which is really interesting, is that it looks like people who are very early stage, much more younger, are starting to recognize lipedema symptoms in themselves, and then coming to the Facebook group and saying, like, does it look like I have lipedema? Like, here are the kind of issues I'm dealing with. And of course, nobody there can diagnose or anything, but what's interesting is it seems like there's this whole new level that we've reached, because people are so used to seeing people with lipedema who have been diagnosed and they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 30s or 40s, and much more advanced, to the point where many people could look at them or look at themselves and say, oh yeah, that's lipedema. But with these early stage people, it's much more subtle. So they may not have as much obvious disproportion, and what they end up having to focus on is the other non-visual symptoms. And I think this is going to come up way more often, because lipedema is becoming more recognized and people are either getting diagnosed in earlier stages or just recognizing it. So I want people to keep that in mind, because sometimes they'll come in and people can comment, oh no, it doesn't look like you have lipedema. But if they're early stage, lipedema does not happen overnight. It can be very, very gradual. And one thing I've noticed that's really interesting is some others will comment, oh yeah, that's what I used to look like before I got to where I'm at now. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to have to learn, and just ask them questions as well. Like, what kind of symptoms are you seeing in yourself, and how can we recognize people this early? Because that is super awesome if we can get people earlier and earlier and earlier, because it opens up a lot of possibilities for the person. So not certainties, not, they're going to be fantastic, things like that, but they have a lot more possibilities to get to that point.
Right. And so, like Jean Maddox says, non-visuals such as.
So a couple things. Some of them are visual and may pop up just much more subtly, like the wrist or ankle cuffing. You may see like the tiniest shadow of cuffing on the person. And then there's also things like the non-pitting edema. So that may be non-visual in terms of you may not visually see it swelling. Maybe you'll see it, but the feeling may be there. The feeling of the swelling after travel, after eating certain things, after being on your feet for a long time. And that's something that popped up in the Voices of Lipedema project as well, as people commenting that they noticed the legs swelling very early in. So that could be feeling a tightness in the legs, a heaviness or an achiness. Another possible non-visual symptom, which may not be present in all people. That's kind of what the research and just people talking about it has shown, but the painful fat aspect. So the painfulness and tenderness may also be present even in early stages. I've seen some people mention that. So that's another thing to look out for. And then also, even if it's not super noticeable, the fat texture in the person may be something that people could look for. So one aspect of that could be nodules, so the graininess, or in my thighs, for example, I've noticed more of like a ropey texture to the scar tissue. The looseness of the fat, the feeling of it being like waterlogged or almost like a marshmallow texture, like it's overly soft, but it's that feeling of the bound up fluid in the tissue is what it is, I think, anyway. So all those types of things. And then perhaps mild disproportion. So it may be that, looking at them, it's like, well, that could just be how they're shaped. But then how does that respond to diet and exercise? Are they losing disproportionately, even if it is subtle? So all of those things are kind of what I'm looking at and considering when I'm looking at these posts, being like, how can we help these people? Because we don't want to have to wait until it's obvious. Like, obviously we don't. We want to be able to recognize as soon as possible and get them into proper care as soon as possible. But I think it's a challenge. But I think it's something we should all collectively think about because it is really important.
Right. And it is important to also note that those of us who are more advanced, those of us who are struggling, even if we have just found out about it, to know that every single one of us who questions, oh, why do my legs feel so heavy, or it's painful when my niece or my dog or somebody sits on my lap, and they start reading about it. It's really important for those of us who are more seasoned. I don't know what the word is. More well-versed in dealing with this. It's really important for us to kind of be those mother hens and take these young people under our arms and say, I'm a cautionary tale. If I could have slowed this down and knew how to manage it when I was younger, I would have, maybe, right? If I thought, oh no, my legs are fine. But I've struggled with just thinking my legs were these big old heavy legs for so long. But if somebody would have told me, Gal, compression, and this is what compression does for you, or, get as soon as you get off wheat, your legs aren't going to hurt anymore. Practice things out and see what happens. I probably would have done it. I mean, I'm 63 this year. And if I would have had the opportunity to start maybe in my 30s, maybe in my early 40s, to be able to actually make a difference in my life, I wouldn't have had so much struggle. I don't know. I I would think that, we can be that guiding light and loving that loving community to open our arms.
Yeah, and we all want better for the people who come after us. And I think as a community, we're really good at setting that up. Like,
Yeah.
even just compared to a couple of years ago when I entered into the community compared to now, we've learned so much, and so much is being put together by the community to help the people who are coming in today and tomorrow and the day after.
Right.
And regardless of where we're at, in terms of staging, in terms of how long we've known, like, we all know it can be really complicated, really complex, really overwhelming. Even if you're like stage one, like I am, like it can, like there are some days, like there are good days and bad days, and that's true for everybody. So we really, really do need each other, and we need that understanding support and being like, yeah, I remember being where you were, and it was not easy, but we're here for you. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to get across to everybody coming in.
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful way to share why we do what we do, why Lipedema Simplified is here, right? Um, because we might not have all the answers, but by golly, we're going to find them, and we're going to find
Absolutely,
we're
yeah.
going to find
I
we're going to
believe
find
that 100%.
yes, we're going to find them together. So with that, Siobhan, it looks like um, Leslyn and Catherine have both departed. Departed. I know that Catherine had a visitor at her home, and Leslyn's out on the boat. So with that, I'm going to get ready to close this up. Remember, we have lots of stuff going on, and I wish Siobhan the best of luck with tomorrow's Tribers at the Table, as well as all of our others that are happening all over the world tomorrow. And remember that send us messages, ask us questions, and we'll see you next weekend, right?
Yeah. See ya.
Okay.
We love you. We're here